Chapter 6 of the book Moments Weathering the Storm in Ersama is a story written by Harsh Mandir, who is a social activist and works in a great way towards upliftment of the people who have gone through certain calamities, natural calamities, who have witnessed a lot of pain in their lives because of natural calamities. This story is talking about the super cyclone that struck the coastal Orissa in the year 1999. Weathering the storm, as mentioned in the topic, means the title talks about how the brave heart in the story, that is Prashant, how he weathered the storm, how he undertook task of bringing up his life forward and braving through the storms. Orissa, as you all know, has been a state which has been affected by super cyclones many a times. If you remember, or you would have studied, in 2013, we had this famous super cyclone. Why famous? Because it was given the name Phylin, and everybody knew how disastrous it was. 2014 came the cyclone Hudhud. And now, in this chapter, we are going to talk about how the super cyclone struck the coastal Orissa and how enormous disaster was caused to the state. As we all know, Orissa, the eastern state of India, has always been affected by cyclones because of its geographical proximity to the Bay of Bengal, which has a lot of low pressure built up during the receding monsoon season. So it is precisely the September and October month that Orissa faces a number of super cyclones. And it builds itself, rebuilds itself. Again, there's something. If you remember, 2013 was the year when the super cyclone Phylin had hit. 2014 saw Hudhud coming and devastating Orissa. In this story, the writer talks about an incident about the boy Prashant, who had witnessed the super cyclone that came and struck on the coastal Orissa in the year 1999. In this story, Prashant had gone to block headquarters of Ersama to visit his friend from his village, Kalikuda, a coastal district in the Jagat Singhpur district of Orissa. Prashant had walked all those 18 kilometers to reach the coastal town of Ersama, and as he had just reached, by that time the storm which had developed on the east coast had now struck Orissa, and he was stuck in that village during that storm. The storm that struck Orissa that day was at a devastating speed of 350 kilometers per hour. It uprooted and ate up everything that came its way. And Prashant was scared, worried, but sadly he was caught in the storm. The trees were uprooted, the houses got broken. A short span of few minutes, there was devastation all over. The entire environment was wrenching with painful cries of people, animals, devastation. The storm, which was ferocious, the waves lashed up and ate up everything that came its way. The waves, they say, they were of the height of around 4 to 5 meters. Water had entered into the house of Prashant's friends also. They had to take refuge on the first floor of the house. And they were stuck on that floor for almost 2 days. 2 nights they stayed huddled to each other, and they stayed there, surviving only on the tender coconuts. One tree had got uprooted and it had fallen on the roof of the house. So they kept eating the tender coconut and managed to fight with their hunger. After the water receded on the 3rd day, these people got down, and Prashant wanted to go back home. It was a difficult time for him to understand how his family would have braved that thing, provided his family was there or not. A very painful thought in his mind came in. So he started walking against all the advices given to him that it's unsafe, because there was just water. It was sea. It was a sea that had extended into around 25 kilometers into the mainland. So he kept walking, wading. He held a stick and he kept wading through the water, finding for the broken pieces of road where he could walk. and it was a ghastly image. There were carcasses of animals. It was bad, dead bodies, trees, plants, everything that was there was swept away, mixed, and it was black water, and tree branches of trees and all were just being shown up. He walked a few kilometers, then he was joined by one of his uncles from his village and two further friends. So they now walked together and reached his village. There he could not locate his own family. What used to be his house was now just a roof over there. It had fallen onto the water. All the belongings in the house had got damaged, lost, broken. How difficult it was to collect all those pieces in his mind and move. Then there was a Red Cross shelter which has been placed by the government. This is where Prashant found some of his family members, his cousins, uncles, aunts, and he got reunited. It was definitely very painful, but Prashant, all of 19 years old age, started to pick up things. He said, sitting and crying won't help. Whatever is left of life should be collected and movement should be made ahead to carry on with life. He started talking to the youth, organized them, and the first task he did was to talk to the merchant who had hoarded up this rice. The rice, all the shopkeepers, whatever was left of the food, they started hoarding up to kind of make that extra buck. But in a state where there's pain, hunger, strife, his heart pained for all this. He just wanted to get people to eat food, because how much of tender coconuts could they eat? Now, he collected all the youth and went to talk to this merchant, who finally agreed, and this rice was brought, collected whatever twigs they could get, whatever little of it, put up a community food center, lighted up the fire and fed the people. That was the first good meal, a stomach full of meal that was given to them after 3 days. Then they started the task of cleaning the area. It was filthy, it was dirty, there was a fear of an outbreak of a health disease. So they collected and cleaned the whole thing. The next task was, helicopters would come to drop food packets. But theirs was a little small village, so somehow it got overlooked and the helicopters flew away. He now motivated the children to lie on the sand that was there with empty vessels on the stomachs, and gave them, the helicopters were flying over, bulk together, they signaled towards them, and that is how they were identified, and hence droppings of food was made for them. Once that was done, they had a regular supply of meals. Now this boy has now emerged as a leader. Fighting spirit was strongly inbuilt in him. He wanted to do the best and not cry over what has happened. He said we have to move ahead and do what is required to safeguard and take care of the people who are alive. Next, he motivated all the children to start cleaning. He motivated the bereaved families to start taking care of those who were alive. This is how he picked up all the pieces. He became a virtual leader of the gang, and there were children who had lost their parents. There were wives who had lost husbands. Red Cross and the government had thought of making an institution for the widows and the orphans. But he stood up, he says, no, we cannot isolate them like that because of the widowhood stigma in the society, prevalent in the society. So they said, why not unite these new foster families? He asked these widows to adopt little children and build up the new families, and asked these women to start making those food programs so that they could get employment. And this is how he found a new vision. So it is in this story that we see that in extreme calamities, God does give you some inner strength to work up towards living a better life and forgetting your own pain in return. He had taken care of the families that were there, bereaved, troubled, lost their homes, and slowly represented his own society to the headquarters in Ersama, went ahead, took their causes, and worked towards bringing the new life to this devastated village.